What's up guys, Rage Quitting here, back with another video for you guys, and today we're going to do a guide for Warrior. This is going to be for leveling, weapon progression, macros, playstyle, and any other little tips and tricks that I can come up with, and we're going to just give you guys all the information that I know. This is my 4th time leveling a warrior in World of Warcraft Classic. I do have few warriors on the era server that I'm still active on. We raid every week, so I tank and I play DPS, and I also PvP on the warrior, so lots of stuff to go over, so we'll just get right into it. First off, when you are making a new warrior and you are level 1, there's not a whole lot of things to do. Obviously you just spam heroic strike because that's the only thing you can do, right? And then once you get charged, that's cool. Charge stuff, gain rage, use heroic strike because you don't have any other rage dumps, so just do that. But the things that start making the game fun is when you get hamstring and you get rend and you get overpower. And once you get hamstring, you want to do a thing that's called hamstring kiting. So what that looks like, there's a turtle over here that I wanted to show you guys what hamstring kiting looks like, and you can do this as soon as you get hamstring. And this only really works if you have a slow two-handed weapon, because the whole point here, if you watch my Weaponswingtimer at the bottom, what you do here, we charge in, apply hamstring. Now every time my Weaponswingtimer, you see this blue bar at the bottom, when it's about to be ready for my auto attack, you go back in and auto attack. Kite out, kite in, auto attack, kite out, kite in, auto attack, reapply hamstring if it falls off, right? But in between these, obviously, like when you go in, you can apply abilities too. So I just did a rend and then walk in, auto attack. Okay, so that's just the basics of hamstring kiting. When you want to get more into it, every time you kite in and kite out, if you have rage, you can use abilities. You can cue a heroic strike when you're about to kite back in. You can put a rend dot up on the target when you go back in. So that's what hamstring kiting looks like. But the whole point of that is so that you take less damage on every single mob when you're leveling, because the mobs have faster attack speed than you. You should be using a slow two-handed weapon. So instead of just standing there face to face with the mob and the mob gets like 3 or 4 or 5 attacks on you, by the time you get one of your melee swings off, you're just gonna be taking that much more damage every single mob. So more often you're gonna have to stop and eat or bandage or whatever, and you're not reducing your DPS. Your DPS is still the same because you're waiting on a swing timer every single time, right? So I'll show you another one here on the drone, and you can do this as soon as you get hamstring. This is a good thing to practice. Okay, so charge hamstring. I missed it. It procs an overpower, which is fine. So I'll do another hamstring. Okay, kite in, auto attack, rend. Rend misses, that's fine. Kite back out, kite in, rend again. Rend gets parried, that's fine. Kite in, auto attack, reapply hamstring. Okay, and then when they get low, you can just, finish them off. So even on that mob where I got parried twice and I missed once or whatever, I still don't take that much damage because I'm kiting in and out with the hamstring slow, right? So that's the whole purpose of that. And once you get overpower, it's a good thing to rend. A lot of people don't really like the ability rend, but because it doesn't do that much damage in overall, how much rage you spend versus how much damage it does. But the good thing about rend is that while you're kiting in and out of this hamstring slow range and you're not auto attacking it, at least it's taking a little bit of damage. But also if you rend and they dodge the rend, then it procs your overpower, which does more damage, and it only costs 5 rage. So you kind of want to be using your extra rage to spam hamstring or rend to kind of fish out some of these dodges from the mobs so that it'll proc your overpower and you'll kill the mob faster. Okay, and then the really fun part about hamstring kiting, it gets better when you hit level 30, because then you unlock intercept, because then you can, when the mob gets low enough, you can then switch to Zerker stance, intercept, and then finish them with a auto attack or an execute while they're stunned, right? So I'll show you what that looks like here. Plus, this is a really good thing to practice as you're leveling, because this is the way you're gonna PvP. Like, this is exactly how you PvP on a warrior, melee versus melee, right? You want to hamstring kite them too, just like how you do this mob. So go in, hamstring, kite back, go in, auto attack, apply rend, go back out, kite in, auto, kite out. I'm gonna apply one more hamstring, auto, hamstring, it missed, apply it again. Okay, now on this one, since it's low, I'm gonna stun it with the intercept, auto attack, and then if it still had some HP left after that, followed by an execute while it's stunned, right? Because intercept is a 3-second stun. And that's basically how you would PvP. Like, you try to save your intercept for when they're in kill range, and then use the intercept stun to stun them for 3 seconds while you finish them off, okay? So one more time. Charge, hamstring. Kite out. Kite in, auto attack, rend. Kite out. Kite in, auto. If I wanted to, I could queue up a heroic strike on this one too. Go in, heroic strike, reapply hamstring, because it's about to fall off. Kite in. Let's put up another rend. Kite out. Kite in. Boop. These guys parry a lot, so I'm like missing like a lot of these things. Miss, parry. Reapply hamstring because it was about to fall off. Go in. Boop. Alright, now he's kind of low enough to where I can probably kill him, so I'm gonna intercept in, auto attack, and execute. Boom. Okay, just like that. But see, if I were to just stand there and trade the damage without doing any of those things, then you notice only like 10% of my HP was gone. It would be more like 25 maybe if I just stood there and took all the damage, right? So that's the whole point of hamstring kiting. But in order to do that, you need to set up, I will show you some macros here too. The other thing that's kind of hard about Warrior when people don't know it's their first time playing Warrior. Even a lot of veteran Warriors still don't do this. Like, they manually change their stances, right? At level 10, you get defensive stance. So you have 2 separate bars, right? Your main bar, let me pull this up real quick. So your main ability bar, the one at the top, this one will change the icons on it depending on what stance you're in, right? So for example, when I switch to D stance, you can see here, now I have a shield wall and I have revenge on this bar because this is my defensive stance bar and shield block, okay? When I move to berserker stance, my berserker stance bar and my battle stance bar look almost identical. Only difference is rend is on my battle stance bar because you can't use it in berserker stance, so I'm not going to put it on my berserker stance bar. But this is what you guys need to try and do when you make your warrior. You need to set up your bars so that when you change stances, most of your abilities are in the same exact spot. And what I do here is I put any ability that requires a stance. For example, charge. Let's start with charge because this is the first one you get, right? So charge you can only use in battle stance. So as soon as I get charge at level, what is it, 2, 4, I forget, whatever, you make a macro that says hashtag show tooltip on a new line /cast charge. Requires battle stance, so I put /cast battle stance, and then I also add a /cast overpower /start attack macro, and then cancel aura blood rage. You can copy this one if you want. Sometimes I use heroic strike on here too, but for now I don't. That's why I have 2 lines in there to cancel that heroic strike line out. But the reason why I put overpower on this same button too is because overpower also requires battle stance, and you can add abilities to charge because charge doesn't use a global cooldown. So you can really put any other ability you want on this same button for charge. Like if you wanted to put heroic strike instead of overpower, if you wanted to put hamstring instead of overpower, you could do that because since charge doesn't use a global cooldown, you can add another skill there to save a keybind on your bars somewhere. But for me, I like doing it on overpower so that it just saves a keybind there. Okay, so this is how I have charge set up. But every single ability that requires a stance, you need to make a macro for it to change stances without you actually having to manually change stances first, you know? Like, so you just press the button and it'll automatically switch stances and use that ability, right? Another really good one when you get low, you know, this is another one that you get really early on is shield bash, right? So shield bash requires either battle or D stance. You can't use it in berserker stance. So but since you can do it in both stances, I don't have a stance swap for shield bash, but I do have a equip macro. So let's say I'm using my 2-handed weapon. Let me move this bar back down here. Let's say I'm using my 2-handed weapon, but I know that the mob or an enemy is a spell casting thing and I need to switch to my one-hander and my shield so that I can shield bash. It's on my shield bash macro. So like this, I just hit my shield bash macro and it'll switch my weapons, and then now if I hit shield bash, it'll do the interrupt, right? So the macro looks like this. So show tooltip /cast shield bash /equip slot 16 is your main hand, and then offhand is 17. So I have my main hand and my offhand in here, also with the start attack macro. Every single macro you make, you should just add another line on it that says /start attack, because for some reason the game doesn't understand if you don't have enough rage to use an ability and you're sitting there mashing the button, you're not gonna start auto attacking the thing. It's just just gonna sit there and say, need more rage, right? So just add a start attack macro to literally every single button so that no matter when you're pressing your buttons, it'll just start auto attacking, right? Most of your damage is auto attack. So if you're not attacking stuff, you're just losing damage and standing there, twiddling your thumbs, wondering what's going on, right? So there's a shield bash. Here's one for Thunderclap. Thunderclap also requires battle stance. So I added a battle stance change to it. Revenge. I like putting Revenge and Heroic Strike. I like adding Heroic Strike on a Revenge button too, because when you're tanking, Revenge is the top priority button that you should be pressing in order to generate rage, but right next to that is Heroic Strike. And so Heroic Strike can be added to almost any ability that you have, because Heroic Strike doesn't work the way that other abilities work. It doesn't use a global cooldown because it's based on your swing timer, right? So you cue the Heroic Strike, and then when your swing timer is ready, it'll use it. But in between that swing timer, you could be using any other ability too. So I like to have Heroic Strike added to Revenge, and then sometimes I like adding it to Execute, but not always. So I change it every now and then. I go back and forth, but you could do this if you wanted to too. Very important macros. Anything that has a stance change, add the stance to it, like taunt, for example. So /cast taunt /cast defensive stance /start attack. Okay. Going over some more macros here. Intercept requires Berserker stance, so then I have a Berserker stance added to it. Okay. Disarm. Same thing, /cast disarm /cast defensive stance start attack. You guys get the idea, right? So literally anything and everything that requires a stance, put the stance on there, add it on your bars, make it make sense in your mind so that when you're switching from battle, defensive, and berserker, all your buttons are kind of laid out very similarly across all three of your bars, because every time you switch stances, it's going to change what it looks like, and you don't want your buttons being in all different kind of places because it's just too confusing, right? But if you do this, you'll never have to manually switch stances ever, okay? Because if I want to go into battle stance, I just hit my charge button. If I want to go into defensive stance, I just hit my disarm button. And then if I want to go into berserker stance, I hit my intercept button, and there it is, okay? But if you wanted to if you're afraid you're gonna actually accidentally intercept something or whatever, or accidentally charge on something, then I just click the stance just to change it or whatever. And that's why I still have like this stance bar showing over here. Okay, so those are some macros. We went over hamstring, kiting. Next we'll go over some like weapon progression. So warrior weapon progression can be kind of difficult, because literally any upgrade that you come across in the open world or in dungeons, you should use it. And so you should level those weapons, right? So in the early stages of the game, like you start the game with an axe, but if you happen to come across a two-handed sword and it's better than your axe, then just use the two-handed sword, right? And then just keep leveling the weapons. What is better? Okay, better is the top end damage on the weapon. So you mainly want to be using two-handed weapon for solo questing and for PvP. The top end damage is what you're concerned with the most on any two-handed weapon. Okay, so this one is on the low end 102, on the high end 154. That's the number that you care about, the 154 part. But you are a warrior, so you should be expected to tank sometimes. The other thing that really bugs me sometimes about certain warriors is like you're leveling and you're looking for a group, but you can't tank. But it's like, dude, you're a warrior. Any low-level warrior can tank any low-level dungeon. It does not matter. You are a warrior. Be a tank, okay? Just find a one-hander and keep a shield, and you're good to go. When you're tanking low-level dungeons or content in the world, make sure you have taunt on your bar with a macro, so that if people pull aggro off of you, you can taunt it and keep it on yourself and make things easier for your entire group. Okay, I highly encourage all warriors to learn how to tank. It's only good things can come from it. Okay, anyway, we're getting off on a tangent here. What's next? So gear weapon upgrades. All right, so let's just pull up the Atlas loot real quick. So I'll leave a list of add-ons that I use in the description as well, for which ones that you should be using or what I use. The first one that comes to mind, because we were talking about hamstring kiting, is Weaponswingtimer. I will type it in the say chat so you can read it. Weaponswingtimer, and I think on CurseForge it's the 6 fix or whatever version of it. Super important. You can't even do hamstring kiting if you don't have Weaponswingtimer, because you can't tell exactly when auto attack is about to go off. Okay, so very huge. Get Weaponswingtimer. Questie, I like having a bag add-on, but it's not a requirement, so I use bagnon for this. And Atlas loot is huge, because then you can see in every single dungeon and what drops in the dungeon. You can see crafting stuff, and then you can see, you know, a whole lot of information comes from this add-on. So please download Atlas Loot so that you can plan your routes and which dungeons you want to go to get weapon upgrades and what have you, right? The first biggest weapon upgrade when you're leveling is going to be coming out of Wailing Caverns, and there's a quest for it. All you have to do is kill all the bosses in there, you turn the quest back in, and then you get Crescent Staff. Crescent Staff is huge. It's like 20 DPS or something like that. It's the biggest, most significant upgrade you're going to have at the early stages of the game. Okay, learn how to tank, go get the quest, go get a group formed, and then go get your Crescent Staff. Easy peasy. After that is going to be Black Fathom Depths, and the last boss drops a two-handed sword, which is pretty sick. I used this sword for a few levels before I got the next upgrade in Razorfen Crawl, which is Corpse Maker, this one, all the way until I got my Whirlwind Axe. And Whirlwind Axe is going to be the biggest significant upgrade. As soon as you can get it, you can start the quest at level 30, but realistically, if you're gonna solo the whole thing, you probably won't be able to do it until 38, 39, maybe even 40. Because it's pretty lengthy, and you have to get materials from mobs in higher level zones. So if you could have a buddy or a guildie help you out, it would really help a lot. But a lot of the mats for it are sold on the auction house. So once you get the quest, look up what mats you need. If you have some extra coin, go get them from the auction house, and it'll save you a bunch of time. So myself, I didn't get this axe until I was level 34, which is, you know, what I'm at right now. But I could have got it at 30 if I kind of begged the guild maybe to help me a little bit sooner, but I didn't want to be a beggar, so I got it at 34. But either way, this axe will carry you all the way to maybe it'll carry you until you get a new axe. And the next biggest upgrade axe wise in a dungeon will come from Maradon, Rot Grip, this one right here, Gator Bite Axe. So I'll be using this axe until level 48, where I can try to go get Gator Bite Axe, unless I pick up like a Kang the Decapitator, which is like a level 44 epic. And there's another blue axe that has like hit chance on it or something, like around that same level too, like level 42, 45. I forget exactly what level it is, but Whirlwind Axe, must get it. And then after that, you can just search the dungeons for any other weapon upgrades that you want to go for. Okay, but those are the early ones for progression. Next up, talent build. Okay, we are playing arms because arms is just the best for leveling. You get way more damage talents going down the arms tree initially versus going down the fury tree, because it takes a lot more points to start getting like the good DPS talents in the fury tree. But in the arms tree, you get it a lot, you get them sooner. And we really need tactical mastery, which makes it so that every time you switch stances, you don't lose all your rage. You can actually keep at least 25 of your rage points. Without this, every time you switch stances, you're just going to lose all your rage. So very important to pick this up, and I'll show you the build path. You just hit level 10, you're going to put your very first point in. Okay, I like to go into deflection, parry chance. Why? Because you don't spam heroic strike all that much. I mean, you do, but one, 2, or 3 rage points isn't going to make it or break it. I really like the parry, because how parry works in Classic is if an enemy is swinging at you and you parry their attack, what it does is it resets your swing timer, so you actually get an auto attack off sooner. So increase parry chance just to make it so that you can parry, get an auto attack off, generate rage, all that good stuff. And I think 1 point in parry is more useful than 1 point into rend. But either way, we're gonna go down this entire rend tree regardless. But I just like to put the 2 points into parry earlier. That's just preference. You can do it however you want. But either way, this is the build: 2 in parry, 3 in rend. Once we open this up, we're gonna go all 5 points into tactical mastery. And at this point, every time you switch stances from battle to defensive stance, you're gonna retain the rage that you have. And then we go down into deep wounds, anger management, and then 1 point into improved overpower. This is very important. You don't have a lot of crit chance in the early stages of the game. You want to hamstring and you want to rend to proc dodges from the mobs so that you can get an overpower. And every time you get an overpower, you just use it immediately. It has a 6-second internal cooldown, but every time the mob dodges your attacks, then you will get an overpower. So 1 point here. We finish Impale, and then I actually prefer to go back into overpower and get 1 more point in it to make your overpower crit chance 50%. A lot of guys will tell you only put 1. I prefer to do 2. You do it how you like it, but I'm just going to show you how I like it. The reason why I like this is because early stages of the game, you have no crit chance. So every time you get an overpower, you really want it to crit. And if it doesn't crit, it is very unsatisfying. Okay, you want it to crit, put 2 points here. Okay, and then we'll go down into 2-hand spec, 2 points here. which will open up the next row down here, okay? And then the very next talent that is the most important is Sweeping Strikes. Once you get this ability, you can start pulling more mobs. Instead of fighting one mob at a time, you can fight one mob, build as much rage as you can, and then the next time you are about to fight, you can pull 2 or 3 mobs, depending on how tough they are, okay? Charge in there, pop Sweeping Strikes, and then you just spam cleave, and then just cleave everything down. Most likely, something's gonna dodge something, and then you'll get an overpower, which will then hit all of the mobs, and it's very satisfying. Huge damage. Use Sweeping Strikes on cooldown, okay? And it has a 30-second cooldown, so you can do it like every other pull or every pull, depending on how long it takes you to kill the mobs, okay? So Sweeping Strikes, and then this is huge. This is the whole reason why you really want to play axes in the early stages of the game, is because axe spec, you just get more crit chance from axe spec, and in the early stages of the game, you don't have a lot of crit chance, so crit is very, very valuable. So play two-handed axes, put points in axe spec, get big crits, do big damage, generate more rage, have a good time. All right, so we're gonna put 4 here, and then it opens up this next row, improved hamstring, but we don't really need to go down there yet. We want to finish our axe spec first, boom, and then this is a preference thing, okay? If you're expecting to do a lot of PvP, which I'm leveling on a PvP server, so I'm gonna put 3 points into improved hamstring here. What this does is it gives your hamstring ability a chance to immobilize the target, so it'll just root them there for 5 seconds. So super huge in PvP if you can get it to proc. A lot of classes don't have ways of dealing with this root, so it just really messes people up mentally too. They get rooted, and then they can't kite a warrior who's swinging a big two-handed axe in their face with improved crit chance, and they're just gonna get destroyed because they can't go anywhere, right? So very big here. Roots on hamstring, huge, and then we need to spend 1 more point, and I like to put it right here into improved charge. Okay, reason being is charge generates 15 rage when you charge in. A lot of the times this extra 3 rage, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you charge in and hamstring is your first global cooldown, usually on most targets, okay, you spend some rage doing that, but then you swing and you auto attack, and then you'll generate some. That will usually give you enough to Mortal Strike right away after that. Just a little bit of extra rage really helps. It doesn't seem like it, but I really prefer to have my point here, okay? And then we go down into Mortal Strike, and this is huge, especially for PvP, okay? So Mortal Strike, the damage is based on weapon damage, and so that's also why you want to be using a big, heavy, two-handed weapon with high top-end damage, because that's the modifier that works with Mortal Strike, okay? Mortal Strike, Heroic Strike, Cleave, and when you get Whirlwind, all those abilities are based on weapon damage, okay? That's why we like to spec arms early during the early stages of the game, and I prefer to stay arms for leveling very close to 60, because the opposite build, Fury, and the last talent point here, Bloodthirst, is based on attack power, which you don't get a lot of in this stage of the game. As you're leveling and stuff like that, you definitely get a better modifier with Mortal Strike with weapon damage versus Bloodthirst with attack power. Okay, after we finish the arms tree here, we have the 5% crit from axe spec. The first talent points you're going to spend over here on the Fury side is for the crit, and this is also the 3rd, 4th, 5th, multiple reasons why arms axe spec is better for leveling. This is one of them, okay? 5% more crit chance here. So you get, let's say you have like 5 to 8% crit chance from gear alone, and then you have 5% crit chance from the axe spec, and then you get 5% crit chance from the talent here, and you'd have like close to 20% crit just naturally, okay? And swinging a big heavy axe, two-handed axe, huge damage incoming here, okay? This next one here, this is a preference thing too. So if you're gonna be tanking dungeons, or playing dungeons a lot, and maybe you're the only warrior in the group most times, improved demo shout is really good, and I always take improved demo shout for any of my PvE builds, whether it be full Fury arms DPS or Fury prot tanking. I usually take this talent point here. For PvP though, and for solo leveling, I'm gonna take booming voice. Reason being is it increases the range of your demo shout, which is the only one I really care about. Battle shout's cool too, but demo shout is the one that we care about, because increasing the range on it just means that you can pull rogues and druids out of stealth from further away. You hit blood rage, and then you demo shout, and you just pull them out of stealth, and they lose their opener, okay? So huge on a PvP server. Really like booming voice, okay? And then the next one down here is piercing howl. This is an AoE slow with only costs 10 rage, and it slows for more than your hamstring does, and it has a further reach than your hamstring does. So the reason why this is huge is when you can't reach your target to hamstring it, you can use piercing howl because it has a longer range, and then you hamstring it, which can proc the root or proc and overpower, what have you, right? Piercing howl is huge. I really like it for PvE too. Let's say in situations where you accidentally pull too many mobs and you don't have the rage to individually tab target and slow every single mob around you so you can get away, or you can kite it around for a little bit while you're like waiting on weapon swings or your cooldowns or whatever. You could just piercing howl and slow everything at the same time and then kite them around like you're a frost mage or something, right? So piercing howl, really nice. Blood craze, we're gonna take 3 points here. So every time you get crit, you regenerate some HP. Outside of eating food, taking a pot, or bandaging, you have no other ways of generating HP. So having this is really nice, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but overall in the long term, it can mean the difference between you dying in a duel or you winning the duel because you had the extra HP. Okay, one more point here. We're gonna go improve battle shout just to increase your melee attack power bonus of battle shout. And then I like to go 5 points into enrage. Okay, gives you 25% melee damage bonus for 12 seconds after being the victim of a critical strike. So now when you're fighting things and you get critted, you're gonna generate HP from this talent here, but also you're gonna get a damage increase. So you kind of want to get critted sometimes. You can retaliate with even bigger damage because they procced enrage on you, right? So here is my leveling build, and the same build I'm gonna keep for PvP in the open world. But that's going to be it for the guide. I think I covered everything I wanted to talk about. I might have forgotten some things. I just did this like off the dome to help as many people out as I can without going too crazy into the weeds, but a lot of information is already out there, and there are also a lot of other good guides. So please go ahead and check those out. Leave a comment if I forgot something, or if you have any questions. Like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on another one. Peace.